Hi, friends. I'm Father Kerry Walters, pastor of Holy Spirit American National Catholic Church, and this is another Holy Spirit moment. This one on two creation accounts from the ancient Near East. Militant atheists like Richard Dawkins, who I'm afraid are fond of criticizing ancient texts, but who appear to have never bothered to actually read any of them, are fond of saying that the biblical Genesis account of creation is just a knockoff from all of the other creation myths that were circulating in the ancient Near East 2 and 3 millennia ago. That simply is not correct. And anyone who makes a comparison of the creation myths during that time will quickly see that Genesis stands alone. It is quite unique. It is different from all other going creation myths of the time. And in order to give you a taste of its uniqueness, what I would like to do is to briefly compare it with one of the most popular creation myths in the ancient Near East, the Babylonian Enuma Elish, which was in circulation at least by 1700 BC. So, this is the story in broad strokes of creation according to the Babylonian story. In the beginning, there were two primordial forces, gods, if you will. One is Apu and the other is Tiamat, and they are representative of waters, or perhaps spirit, salt water and fresh sweet water. And they mingle their waters together, and from that commingling, they spawn other gods, lesser gods, secondary gods, if you will. But these secondary gods begin to fight among themselves, and there is great warfare between these lesser deities, to such an extent that their primordial parents, disgusted with the behavior of their children, decide to slay all of them. But the children, the lesser gods, get wind of this plan and they go on the offensive, and they, in point of fact, slay their primordial parents, and they are led by a god named Marduk, a warrior god. And when Tiamat, the primordial mother, is slain, her body is cleaved in two, and half of it becomes the heavens, and half of it becomes the earth. And then, in order to populate the earth, Marduk decides that he will create humans. And so he takes one of the defeated gods and he slays that god, and from his blood he fashions man and woman. But he fashions them for one reason and one reason only, to be the slaves of gods, to work the earth and offer fragrant burnt offerings to the ravenous and rapacious gods. Now, that's the creation myth that the Babylonians embraced. And you can imagine the kind of worldview to which it gives rise. The gods are capricious and unpredictable and violent, and life for human beings is nasty, short, and brutish. We are put here to be nothing more than serfs of the gods. And so life becomes a very precarious and very bleak affair. You might want to take a look sometime at another ancient text that has frequently been called the Babylonian Job, because it deals with the problem of gods inflicting suffering upon an individual. I talked about it about 2 years ago in one of these Holy Spirit moments. I will link to that particular video with this one. I might point out one other thing. In the Babylonian flood story, and of course flood stories were also common motifs across the ancient Near East, the gods decide to destroy humankind, or at least to cull humankind, because they're too noisy. There are too many humans on earth because the gods have failed to make them mortal, and they are raising too much of a racket, and hence disturbing the equanimity and the peace of the gods. So the gods send natural disasters and illnesses and warfare in order to thin out the ranks of humans. This shows what little regard the Babylonian gods have for their creation, humans. Now compare that, my friends, with Genesis. Reality isn't created from violence and strife, from patricide and matricide and fratricide. It's not created from the chaos of war. Instead, God speaks calmly, gently, reality into existence, and does so in an orderly way. There's no chaos involved in the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything that dwells therein. And moreover, when God in Genesis looks at the creation that he has wrought, he declares it tov, good, and comely, because the word tov can be signify both moral goodness and aesthetic beauty. And moreover, when this Genesis God comes to create human beings, how does he do it? Well, he creates them in his own image and likeness, which means that human beings aren't made as slaves or as serfs or as peons of God. Instead, they are created as creatures who possess an inherent kind of dignity, who are able to love and to cultivate wisdom and are free, which is precisely what leads, of course, to the fall, the expulsion from Eden. But human beings are creatures to be admired and to be cultivated in their potential by providence and by God, not used and abused as nothing more than handmaids of the gods. So there really is quite a difference, and Genesis is unique in the way in which it thinks about how creation came to be and how humans are to be regarded. The closest ancient Near Eastern creation text to Genesis is an Egyptian fragment that's frequently called the Memphis Theology, in which we are told that the god Ptah, Ptah, thinks reality into existence. But it is just a fragment. It isn't as fully developed as the Genesis creation account. By and large, then, ancient Near East creation accounts do claim that the world has been created through some kind of violent warfare, and that human beings are, if you will, pawns of the gods who are created for the gods' own pleasure to serve the gods. That is not Genesis. And look at what now the book of Genesis, understanding of the way in which everything was created, look at the influence that it's had. It undergirds what today we call science, because it suggests that the universe is an orderly affair that can be understood via reason. It suggests to us that we ought to treasure this gem earth upon which we dwell, because God declares it both good and beautiful. And finally, it suggests to us that human rights are absolutely fundamental when we're thinking about social and political institutions, because all human beings, Genesis declares, are made with an inherent worth, an inherent dignity in the likeness and image of God. So, my friends, if you hear people like Richard Dawkins try to convince you that the Genesis story is just another near ancient myth, correct them. It is not. It is unique, and it is beautiful. I'm Father Kerry Walters, and this has been another Holy Spirit moment. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed it, I invite you to subscribe to Holy Spirit Moments YouTube channel. God bless. Please wear your masks and socially distance. I will see you next time.